embody the essence, the creed of maximum male bodies.
Let me talk to you!
Character development isn't just important in wrestling, it is needed to keep the viewers going week to week in the unconventional, never-ending, in-the-ring soap opera that is the WWE. And some superstars may not like changing their characters, but it's needed for the story overall. It's a tried and tested formula that has led to many superstars having a career resurgence. We look at 5 men and 5 women in WWE who are currently in need of a character refresh. Is there a character you think needs a change in WWE or another televised pro wrestling show? Get in the comments below and let us know. Former WWE Champion Drew McIntyre is the first and best example of a top star who just needs a new look, a new direction. He hasn't been on WWE since failing to capture the WWE Intercontinental title in a banger of a triple threat match at WrestleMania 39, but the last 2 years of his career can be described as just weird. McIntyre was the MVP for the first half of the pandemic era of WWE, essentially carrying the company on his shoulders as a world champion when crowds weren't there, winning the title from Brock Lesnar in front of no fans, reaching out and connecting with those fans. He knocked the ball out of the park in 2020 and 2021. He has yet to enjoy a reign as a world champion in front of a live audience. He's reportedly in negotiations with WWE over a new contract, with a holdup reportedly being not just about money, but about his creative reassurance. We think the Scotsman has proved his worth as a main event superstar a long time ago, and a character change, along with the recent draft move to Raw, should be enough to get him back to that high level again. Former UFC champion Ronda Rousey knows what it's like to be at the highest level of combat sports and pro wrestling, but it's been a long time since she occupied the top spot in either. Once a UFC box office megastar and WrestleMania headliner, has fallen a long way down the card since starting her return in 2022. It became evident since she joined WWE in 2018 that her in-ring performance came naturally, but her character work didn't. This is probably the reason why, despite winning the Royal Rumble and having a title match at WrestleMania and 2 reigns as SmackDown Women's Champion, she hasn't made much buzz recently. 2015 is when Braun Strowman got his start in WWE. With only a few years of pro wrestling experience under his belt, he found himself becoming one of the hottest superstars in the entire roster. Mind you, in 2017, when the WWE main roster was better than it had ever been at any point in its history purely in terms of in-ring talent, Strowman stood out. Strowman didn't need to be the best talker or the best worker. He just needed to be Braun, and crowds went crazy for him. He was just a gigantic He-Man action figure come to life who yelled Braun, and you went crazy with him, right? Well, it's a shame they could never capitalize on this in WWE at the right time, because during the pandemic, his eventual WWE Universal title run in 2020 just didn't work. And maybe it's the pandemic or the Thunderdome or whatever you want to call it, but Braun simply didn't benefit from not having the roar of the crowd behind him. Since returning to WWE in 2022, he hasn't had much focus on his character and has often been relegated to the occasional TV match or working in tag teams. The highlight of his run so far this year has been an unlikely pairing with Ricochet. But beyond the big man, little man combination of Strowman and Ricochet, there hasn't been much substance and virtually no real hard storylines between the two. He doesn't even have to return to the exact same character he was 5 or 6 years ago, but perhaps something more fresher for the big man, the monster among men, maybe a new type of monster, could come back from the injury that Strowman is currently dealing with and make a big impact. Let's just hope he doesn't have any choo-choo train noises when he runs around the ring. We're not exactly sure what the next best step is for Lacey Evans. Her character has had so many different revolving door changes in the last couple of years that we've kind of lost track of who she is or what exactly she's supposed to be. We think she's some kind of Sergeant Slaughter gimmick thing, but let's be real, isn't it getting anywhere? Is it getting the reaction it's supposed to be? Evans has proven that she's able to get hard reactions from audiences with her previous incarnations of calling people little nasties. Yeah, that worked. It's almost like maybe a character change could be going back to the character that worked for her. But what will it matter if WWE doesn't continue to feature her on screen and let the audience have a reaction to her? Former NXT champion Karrion Kross hasn't had an issue getting on TV for WWE, but he's had some problem with sustaining fan interest. He was once considered one of the most surprising names to be released by WWE in 2021, especially since it was just a few months after he had the NXT title. But all the complaints about him being underutilized seemed to vanish when he began to be actually utilized on SmackDown. Some people, unfortunately, think that he and Scarlett have failed to impress. I disagree. While Kross can certainly go in the ring, there seems to be something just missing from the presentation on the big stage as compared to what we got back in NXT. That can be attributed to the clear and obvious need for maybe a character refresh, maybe some of those cool vignettes with the crows flying around and the TikTok, dial it back into what we know and remind us of the apocalypse that he can bring. Who knows? On the women's side, Michin, formerly known as Mia Yim, hasn't been able to truly connect with the majority of fans. It's hard not to blame her. Her initial run on the main roster had her in the Retribution faction, and we know where that went. But it seems like WWE simply brought her back into the company to pair her with the OC, with another faction, where they're just going to be, I don't know, pitted against the Judgment Day, against Rhea Ripley, who's red hot right now. Yeah, where is that going to go? Her story with the OC has always seemed just a little bit off. On paper, a great idea, but it's probably best maybe at some point for WWE to let her go on her own and forge her own path as a new fresh character, and maybe that would be too sweet. Speaking of the OC, perhaps the phenomenal AJ Styles could do with a bit of a change. Don't get us wrong, he's almost done everything you can do in WWE, winning titles, big main events. He's flipped back and forth as a heel and babyface through the years, but he's always held down the role as a veteran who you know can deliver great matches. But we could argue that AJ Styles has one of the top runs left in him where he could go for the title. Whether or not that's with his buddies, Gallows and Anderson, by his side, it isn't exactly clear. He needs to have an edge to his character to get back to where he was once phenomenal. And is he still phenomenal? Oh yeah, it's still possible. Someone that's in need of a sharper edge, one that's as sharp as the suits she's worn to the ring in the past, is Sonya Deville, who's been called a future women's champion, but those championship dreams have not yet been fulfilled. She spent the last few years going in and out of character roles, playing a pretty strong and well-received heelish authority figure. She was recently paired with the always complaining Karen on-screen Chelsea Green, without any real hard explanation, and it doesn't seem like she's going to be going anywhere. A tall order when you consider how stacked the Raw women's division is currently, but maybe a character diversion, something different that still keeps her in those sharp suits, could be the thing that gets Deville to the championship level. People who follow Johnny Gargano's wrestling dream from WWE NXT to the main roster know how much potential he has, but the ceiling has not yet been reached there. Good things take time, but given how much more competitive the main roster main event scene is compared to WWE NXT, Gargano needs to be a lot more than just a good wrestler. He needs a character that everybody, even someone who's never heard the name Johnny Wrestling, can sink their teeth into. And maybe that's what he's going to do with a returning Tommaso Ciampa? Austin Theory won't get to join as he's on SmackDown, but maybe a heel Gargano with Candice LeRae, Dexter Lumis, Indy Hartwell, Ciampa coming back. Yeah, they could be a real faction that could go up against the Judgment Day. Or the OC. Yeah, why not? Gang wars like at Survivor Series back in the 90s. Bayley doesn't have much left to accomplish in WWE in terms of championship titles, but that doesn't mean we can't get captivating stories with her. Just like Drew McIntyre, she was an MVP for WWE during the Thunderdome No Fan days. She made it feel like you were still booing her if you were in the building. Now, obviously, as WWE came out of the pandemic, Bayley unfortunately had a poorly timed injury. when she came back from that injury, though leading the Damage Control faction in a big headlining return at SummerSlam 2022 in Nashville. The faction of Damage Control that she's led really hasn't established themselves much beyond, winning the women's tag team titles. Names like Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair have truly risen to the top of the card, and duly noted, they deserve that. But what about Bayley? Yeah, what about Bayley? WWE has been making hints that the Damage Control group could eventually be coming to an end. Bayley could benefit from a switch back to a beloved babyface. Is she gonna side ponytail it again? I don't know. She has been a heel for 4 years right now, and the women's division on SmackDown needs a strong superhero that fans can get behind besides Bianca Belair. She'd be the perfect person to fit in that number 2 slot. Well, you watched the whole thing. Who else do you think needs a big, desperate character change in WWE? The comments are right down there. Let us know what you think. Also, if you want to see some of the most shocking family betrayals in WWE history, click on the video above.